Hi, so in this topic, we are going to learn how to have deadlines in your tasks and how to set up some constraints which you might be working in your project. You might be having some constraints in your project which you might like to set up in your project file. So let us first understand a deadline. Deadline basically is a date by which you might want to complete certain activities. So let's say the scope baseline as of now it is finishing on 27th 9th of 27 September. So maybe the deadline here is the end of month by which the scope should be finalized for this project. So I want to track that as of now we are well within the deadline, but I want to keep that alert system in my project wherein those if any delay is there in this milestone, I the Microsoft project immediately shows me an alert. So now to enter a deadline, what I'll do is that I'll just double click this task and the task information box opens, and then I'll go to advanced section, advanced tab, and there is something called a deadline. So I'll just click on the drop down, and the end of the month, obviously I would like to set it as 28th, which I know is the working day. 29/30 means Saturday Sunday is the non-working days. I'll just click on 28 and set as the deadline. Okay. Now if you see on my schedule on the graph side, a green arrow has appeared which shows that yes, this is the deadline date. Now for any chance this so baseline moves beyond this deadline date, it will show me an alert itself, so you can try it. So I'll just change this date to, let's say I'll change it to October 1st, and as soon as I shift it to October 1st, you can see that an alert has come in which says that this task goes past the deadline. Now there is also a constraint which has come in, the start no earlier than constraint. We'll talk about constraints. Since I manually changed the date, the software is assuming that I cannot start this activity or finish this activity by certain, that is the 1st of October, I cannot start this activity. Ignore that part. What I wanted to show that yes, as soon as you miss a deadline, this red exclamation mark within a diamond shape box does appear, which shows the task goes past the deadline, which is on 28th September. So just revert back by pressing Ctrl Z. I've reverted back. So anywhere during the project execution, if you're missing the deadline, this alert system will come. This indicator column is something which you should always keep looking, just to show what all additional information that you might have related to a task or a phase. So this is how you add a deadline. Now it's always recommended that with a deadline you always add some additional information, that what is this deadline all about, so that if somebody else is reviewing your schedule or viewing your schedule, they understand that what is this all about. So I can add additional information. So I'll just double click the task, and then in the task information box itself I'll go to the notes section, wherein I can write as scope should be gathered and finalized on or before September end. So let me be more precise, September 2018 end. Sponsor has directed this in the initial review meeting. So I've entered a note item so that everybody knows that why this deadline has been associated. So as soon as I enter the note, you see a note item has been appearing again in the indicator column. I can attach some additional documents also. So if I go to note section, there is an option called insert object, wherein I can insert files. Selecting from my PC, I can insert files and attach to it. Like similarly, I can attach hyperlinks. So if I right click here, there is an option called hyperlink, so I can create hyperlinks associated to activities also. So all these documents, notes, hyperlinks are generally kept with the activities to give more information about that particular activity. So yes, we attach a deadline, we attach notes. Now let us understand what are constraints. Now sometimes happens in a project that you might not be able to start or finish an activity because of certain limitations. Limitations could be like resources not available. Limitations could be like organization and some other planned events during that time, so you're going to start or finish that activity. So you can assign constraints. So let's say here I'm saying that high level design has to start on 27th of September, but let us assume that the designer team is engaged in another project, and they will not be available on or before October 1st. So the scheduling will be done by the software based on when the predecessor is finishing, but I don't want this activity to be starting on or before October 1st, so I can build in that constraint. So I'll just double click this task, and again the task information box opens. I'll go to the advanced section, and then under constraint type I have multiple constraints which talks about as late as possible, as soon as possible. Now first these two constraints, as late as possible, as soon as possible, it all depends on how you have scheduled your project. Like by default it is as soon as possible, because if you remember when we started our video series, one of the topics where we covered that how do you schedule your project, we scheduled it from the start date. When we were setting the start date of the project, we schedule it from the start date. So if you schedule it from the start date, by default it will take as soon as possible. That is based on sequencing. Then if you do it from the finish date, it will take it as late as possible. Then the other constraints are something which you might enter on your own, like finish no earlier than, finish no later than. So if you don't want an activity to finish before a certain date, or if you don't want to finish after a certain date, then you can attach these two constraints: finish no earlier than and finish no later than. Must start on a fixed constraint, that it has to finish or start on a particular date. Start no earlier than and start no later than, that you do not want to start earlier than the particular activity, or start you don't want to start later than a particular date. Then you can assign these constraints. So let us assume that this high level design cannot start before October 1st because the resources are not available. So I'll go ahead and assign the constraint start no earlier than, and the date that I will assign here is October 1st. So as soon as I do this and click OK, this activity has moved to October 1st. And if I now take my mouse in the indicator column, the icon that is showing, that shows that the task has no start no earlier than constraint associated with. Now this activity won't start on or before October 1st, it will start on or after October 1st only. So this is how you attach constraints in your project. And we also talked about deadlines. Make sure you have deadlines associated to your important milestones, and if there are any constraints, you do attach those constraints as well. So, and make sure you attach note items whenever you are attaching constraints and deadlines to your activities or tasks. So that's it for this topic.